Good evening from Abu Dhabi, where tonight I'll be flying on Qatar Airways on their Airbus A320 in their regional first class.
Hello, YouTube travelers, and welcome to the Gentleman of Fortune channel. Join me on my travels around the world, and together we'll review the latest in flight and lounge offerings, find out how various airlines' first and business class products stack up, sample their catering, and indulge in their finest champagnes. Together, we'll experience the best of the best, and maybe some more obscure ones too. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss a thing. And now I invite you to sit back and relax as we get this next adventure underway.
Qatar's regional first class is their business product and would be analogous to U.S. domestic first class or European business class. As such, I was offered priority boarding. I'm one of about 5 people traveling in this class of service today. I'm sure most people can't justify paying extra for such a short flight. Waiting for me when I arrived at my seat was a moist towelette from Diptyque, and I've got to tell you, this smelled terrific. What a beautiful, refreshing scent. Looking around my seat, there's a couple items that we can look at here in the seat back. Most notably, on today's very short flight, we even have a menu card. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. Additionally, in the seat back pocket, there was a bottle of water waiting for me. Then we've got this card for their Oryx one-play in-flight offerings. Additionally, there's an in-flight air sickness baggie, as well as the emergency card for the Airbus 320. As you can see, under the seat in front of you, there's more than enough space to stretch out, although there is some type of electrical box which makes it harder to stow items under the seat. On the center console, there's a universal power outlet for both seats, as well as a small drink tray that folds out. Underneath the armrest, you'll find the tray table, and even though this is a super short flight, we'll probably be needing that later. But to get this flight kicked off in the right way, I'm offered a welcome drink. On offer, they had a rosé and this brut, which I believe the flight attendant referred to as classic champagne. Now, before we go any further, let's refocus on the seat. I think you can see that it's quite comfortable and features a lumbar pillow, as well as an adjustable leather headrest. Ordinarily, at this point, I'd be making a big deal out of the fact that they have personal air vents, but in this case, look at how humid it is. The cold air coming out of the vents creates an impressive fog as it mixes with the warm, moist air. We've got some time before departure, so let's take a look at the menu. I find it very impressive that they have a menu on this very short flight. The majority of the menu is focused on beverage options. There's effectively only 2 food choices, but owing to the very short flight time, the in-flight service is going to have to be very rapid, and fewer choices will facilitate this. Before we pushed back, the flight attendants came to collect my order for the flight. Eventually, all the passengers were on board, and it was time to push back. Lights were dimmed for the taxi-out. As I mentioned before, it's very humid here in Abu Dhabi today, and it was difficult to see anything on the taxi-out. The same may be true for the takeoff, but hopefully, once we get moving, the condensation will blow off. Almost immediately after takeoff, the in-flight service began. The flight attendants deployed rapidly, and a white linen tablecloth was placed on my tray table. I was also offered a nice pair of headphones and an iPad, since the aircraft we're on today doesn't have seat-back TVs. But before I really had time to dig into what was on the iPad, the meal was delivered in a single tray. On the left, you've got the beetroot hummus with a little cup of Arabic bread. Then in the center, you've got the turkey truffle croque monsieur. And lastly, the raspberry pistachio gâteau. This was the perfect little snack to tide me over. And now for a look at the lavatory. As you'd expect on a small aircraft, it's not very large, but it's clean and nicely appointed with some nice amenities. Here you've got some shaving kits as well as dental kits. Hand soap. Paper cups and a couple more Diptyque branded toiletries. I would say pretty much everything one could hope for on a short regional flight. Back at my seat now, let's take a look at the offerings on the iPad. Realistically, there's not enough time for me to watch a whole show even, but we can take a look and see what's on here. And here's another look at the business class headphones that they give you. These appear to be the same ones that you could expect on a long-haul flight with Qatar. I'm not going to open the plastic bag that they come in today, since I have no intention of using these headphones. As I look outside, I can see that we've already begun a downwind leg for our arrival at Hamad Airport in Doha. It looks like we'll be landing to the south this evening. This means that the flight will actually take a couple minutes longer than it could otherwise, but it also means that I should have a pretty nice view of some of the architecture in Doha as we go past it. Here you can see some of the high-rises from the old downtown. And now as we turn around and start heading south towards the airport again, you can see Al Maha Island, and then just south of that is the now iconic Fairmont at Lusail. And next, the Pearl is coming into view with its illuminated marinas. There's really no shortage of incredible architecture here in Doha. So my flight from Abu Dhabi to Doha is almost complete. The flight time on this leg is really only about 40 to 45 minutes, depending on the direction of traffic. And of course, for the last 20 minutes or so of the flight, there's no service because you're in preparation for the landing. So when you consider that there's really only about 20 minutes in flight for them to perform the service, this was a spectacular flight. Where else can you expect to have all the ground service, the drink options, the different kinds of champagnes, as well as an in-flight meal on such a short flight? It's true that Qatar Airways really does set the bar on flights like this. The only negative that I can think of is that once we arrive in Doha, we have to park at a remote stand. And while some might love the opportunity to drive around the airport and see the various aircraft from the ground level, it seems a shame to have to add an extra 20 minutes waiting for everybody to get onto the buses after such a short flight. The deplaning process and the transfer to the airport terminal takes almost half the time that it took to get here from Abu Dhabi. But there is still one last treat in store for those of us that flew on Qatar's regional first class. We get to travel to the terminal in style in their first class transfer bus. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it interesting. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd ask that you please consider doing so, and of course, hit that like button. And, as I always say, until the next video, safe travels.